The old warhorse, Borje Salming.
For 17 years, Borje Salming was a warhorse, the ageless anchor of the Maple Leafs blue line, and when all was said and done, the most prolific defenseman in Maple Leaf history. He leads all Leaf defensemen in points, goals, and assists, and not just in the regular season, but in the playoffs as well. Yet it wasn't until he was well into his career that Salming understood what the Toronto Maple Leafs stood for.
For me to come here was great, but I didn't know till a few years later that how big Toronto Maple Leafs has been for hockey players and everybody in Canada.
Salming was among the first Europeans to come to Canada and establish himself an NHL star. But it wasn't nearly as easy as he made it look.
I couldn't speak any English, I was yes or no or so, but the guys in the team really took care of me from day one. You know, they took me to lunches, everything, and like really helped me out. And my English really improved so quickly because of that.
Because of that, his image was that of the sullen Swede, the quiet, unassuming stylist who avoided the rough stuff.
It was tough to come in, especially when you play Philadelphia Flyers, and you knew they were going to just try to kill you, sort of. They wanted to kill you. And but when you came on the ice, all you did like play hockey. Yeah. And the boys and the guys in the team told me all the time, don't drop the stick, just keep the stick high. And you had to learn fast, or else it was really hurting.
Reed looks for help in front. Now here's Salming approaching in front. He scores! Borje Salming coming in from the point.
But Salming played hurt, and he played a lot.
Between 30 and 40 minutes every game. It was nothing uncommon for him to play that much, and he could control the game. He was so good with his stick and handling the puck, and he was probably the toughest European I've ever seen come over to play the game, because he could dish it as well as take it, and he could play in every situation.
Today it's a different situation. Salming is a Swedish old-timer, yet at the same time, the same old lanky skater with an awkward elegance to his stride.
Borje, when I remember playing junior, coming in here, and they'd practice before we played, and I'd watch him and just be amazing how fluid he was on his skates and how easy he made the game look. And then you get to play with him, and when I played with him, he was aging a little bit, yet the more ice time he got, the better he played. And I just, was amazed at the way he could control the tempo of a game, and I think he stopped more shots than a goaltender, and yet he never missed any games due to just aches and bruises, and you had to respect a guy like that.
A guy who became a big part of the Leaf teams of the 70s and 80s. Unfortunately for Salming, the 80s were a time of decline for Toronto, and that was tough for Salming to take.
Toughest was to lose all your players you played. You knew they had a good team, and everybody sort of was gone. 79, 80, and everybody was gone, sort of like, it was just what happened to this team. That was really hard on me.
Carson sets up in front of the net. Gallant behind the net. It goes to Gallant. He tries to wrap around. Loose puck and scores! Salming with 12 seconds left.
So hard, in fact, he wound up with the Red Wings, something no one thought possible, especially given his close relationship with Harold Ballard, the irascible owner of the Maple Leafs.
I can't say enough of the old guy. He treated me like gold from day one, and he was crazy sometimes, to reporters, and said really crazy stuff in the paper. That was Harold. But if you knew him really closely, he was like a dad for me. Because we got along, I never came up and said, "Oh, Mr. Bell, how you doing?" It was just like a friendship, how you doing, old man, or whatever. And I think that's what he wanted to, he needed that too.
But with all that behind him, Salming returned home to Sweden, where he played a couple more years in the Elite League, little knowing that when he returned, he would be revered for all he had accomplished as a Swede in the NHL.
He became a living legend when he came home, and I don't think he was prepared for that. I don't think he expected it, that people would remember him and remember him as a hockey player.
A hockey player SUNDIN always looked up to, and a Maple Leaf too.
Left it back, Salming scores!